New laws and amendments voters across the country cast a ballot on in 5 states. Voters legalized marijuana for either recreational or medicinal use. Voters in New Jersey and Arizona approved measures on Tuesday legalizing marijuana for adults over 21. The Arizona results allow some convicted of some marijuana crimes to try and get their records expunged. People in Montana also approved recreational marijuana use, and medicinal marijuana ballot issue passed in Mississippi. South Dakota became the first state where voters approved both recreational and medicinal marijuana on 2 separate ballot initiatives in the same election. If you look at the map, the 11 states and Washington, D.C. in dark green already allow recreational marijuana use. The lighter shade of green, showing Arizona, New Jersey, Montana, and South Dakota, brings the total to 15 states. Voters in Oregon have passed a measure legalizing so-called magic mushrooms for therapeutic use. The measure calls for the controlled use of magic mushrooms. Supporters say Oregon, the first state in the U.S. to decriminalize marijuana, should also lead the way on this issue. Voters Tuesday also decriminalized the possession of small amounts of certain drugs, including heroin, cocaine, and oxycodones. Uber, Postmates, and other companies in so-called gig economies earned a big victory in California as voters approved a ballot measure to keep drivers listed as independent contractors. The companies spent a combined $200 million during the campaign to keep drivers classified as contractors instead of employees, which would have made them eligible for certain job benefits and protections. Supporters say the current system allows for flexibility with the drivers, while opponents claim the companies paid to get their own law on the books. Officials at Uber and Lyft threatened to leave the state if they lost. Let's go to Mississippi. Voters have approved a brand new state flag design months after lawmakers removed the flag displaying a Confederate emblem. The new flag design features a magnolia and the words "In God We Trust." The previous flag was adopted way back in 1894 by white supremacists in the state legislature. Meanwhile, in Rhode Island, voters passed a proposal to shorten the state's official name of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. The outcome gets rid of the last 3 words, which supports the measure, say invokes a legacy of slavery. Voters in Illinois have rejected a proposal to remove the state's flat rate income tax for one that would tax the wealthy more. Supporters say the ballot measure was designed to help the state pay billions in past due bills and fill gaps in the budget. Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker campaigned hard for the so-called fair tax that he says would have lowered taxes for 97% of people in Illinois. Opponents argue Democrats would not use the money to pay debts, but instead create new programs the state could not afford. And finally, folks in Florida voted in favor of gradually raising the state's minimum wage to $15 an hour over the next 6 years. The state's constitutional amendment passed by a supermajority of voters on Tuesday. Florida's current minimum wage is $8.56 an hour, which amendment supporters say is not a livable wage. Those who oppose the amendment say the pay raise will hinder economic growth for businesses already struggling during the pandemic. 7 other states already have plans to increase the minimum wage to $15 a year over the next several years.